Alright, now we're going to talk about the push-pull tool, which is really one of the most dynamic tools because it's what makes SketchUp so interesting because you're making something that's 2D into something that's 3D. So again, I will start with the rectangle tool. You'll notice a little bit of a theme happening here. I'm going to start at the origin point again. I'm just going to draw a rectangle. I'm not even going to worry about the dimensions of this one. I'm just going to draw a rectangle, click to finalize it, and again, first thing I do, go to my select tool, double click this, right click on it, make it a group, so click that, and then click off of it. So I can click back and see that it's already grouped because when I select it, the whole thing selects. Now, in order to push-pull this, if I go to my push-pull tool right now, which is right next to the move tool, it looks like this. So I'm going to click on that guy. If I go to this space, you'll notice that I get a little bit of a red symbol with a line through it indicating that I can't do anything. So if I click on it, nothing happens. What I have to do first is I have to open this group up in order to work on it. So anytime I want to edit a closed group, I always have to open it up. So let's go ahead and click on the select tool, double click on this to open it up. Now if I go back to my push-pull tool and click on that, now when I move my tool over the cursor over the face, you'll see that it activates and it kind of creates this field of blue dots. That means that I can now click once to get this started. So I've clicked once, now I'm moving this up into space. It doesn't matter where I go with my mouse, and again, I haven't clicked again. This is the same, this is just like all the other tools we've used so far where you have to click on something first, you move your mouse, and then you click again to finalize. I haven't clicked again yet, so I'm going to be able to move this up or down in space and start to create this 3D volume. But push-pull only works in a perfectly parallel direction. So I'm basically pulling this face up. I have no option. All I can do is pull it up. And again, like all the other tools, down here you'll notice that I can control exactly how high this goes. So if I want this to be exactly 7 foot 8 inches, enter. That is how I get to my 7 foot 8 inch distance. And now I've got a 3D object. So I can start to, with my orbit tool, move around this and get myself in a little bit of a 3D view, kind of an exonometric view, where I can click back to my push-pull tool, and any of these faces now are activatable by clicking once on them with the push-pull and pulling out in the direction that is parallel to its same face. So if I click again, that's going to terminate that movement. I can do it in any direction I want with any of these 6 faces. So this is as simple as it gets because we're dealing with just a, well, not as simple as it gets, but it's a pretty simple shape. We're dealing with just a basic cube or rectangular solid. So this is about as as basic as it gets, like I said. All right, so let's take this to the next level. So we've made ourselves a 3D volume. So now the next thing that I can do is I can take my rectangle tool, my line tool, click on the line tool, and click anywhere on any of these lines. Notice that it wants to pull me to the midpoint. Let's actually do that. Let's click on the midpoint of that line and move across and click on the midpoint of the other line. Now if I go to my push-pull tool, you'll see that I can click on either of these faces. So now I can push or click on one face and push it down, click, and I can click on this face now and pull it in this direction. So it works just like it sounds. It's a push and a pull. So click again, and I can still click on any of these faces and pull them in. I'm going to take my line tool again, click on that, and I'm going to click on just a random part of this edge here and drag it all the way down to that point. And notice I'm dragging it along the blue axis. Click again. Now I'm going to go to my push-pull, click, and I'm going to click on this face and pull it in this direction. Click again, and click again. So as you can see, I can start to make a more interesting shape, and eventually the opportunities or there's going to be pretty limitless amounts of things that you can create with this tool. For now, we're going to keep it to a simple kind of step-looking shape for the homework. But as we move forward, you'll see how this can become a really, really advanced tool. So to close this group, I just click on my select tool and click out in space, and now it's closed. So if I select it, you'll notice that my blue bounding box that tells me that this is a closed group is surrounding the whole thing. So if I go to make another rectangle, let's zoom out a little bit. By the way, we're going to get into some shortcuts for navigation really shortly, probably at the start of next week, because I don't want to throw too much at you week one, but we're going to get to a point next week where we're not going to have to go to these buttons every time we want to move. So for this week, I wouldn't worry about it, but for next week, I'm going to show you that you can basically achieve all of these using just your keyboard and your mouse. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to go to my rectangle tool again, click a rectangle, starting point, click a finishing point, go to my select tool, select it by double clicking it, right click on it, make it a group, and then double click on it to open it up, and go to my push pull. You're going to hear me say this quite a bit, and the only reason by this I mean that whole series of movements I just did, making a group and opening it up. The reason I'm going to repeat this over and over again is because there's really no way to express how important it is to do this. These are really the building blocks that you need to have grasped before you can get into some of the more exciting stuff. So now I'm going to go to my push-pull again, click, and notice as I start to pull up, I have now the option, because I have this closed group next to me, even though it's closed, SketchUp is still intuitive and knows that it's there. So now I have the option of referencing it. So if I touch any of these points, or any of this top face here, it's actually referencing that. So I can use that as a reference point and click on it again, and it's now matched the top of this to the top of that. I can do that with this face as well. I can match it to this point, and I can, push-pull this face in and do what I want with that. If I want to take my orbit tool, click on that and move it around and make sure that I've matched this face here to this face, I can initiate the push-pull, click on that face, drag it in, again, not touching any buttons on the mouse, and then just any point on this, as long as I'm referencing this, and it'll even tell me on face, outside, active. Click again, and it's referencing that. So now I can go to my select tool, click, and be done. So that's the really basic intro to the push-pull tool, and that's definitely enough to get you comfortable with the tool for this week's homework. So next up, we're going to move on to some additional shapes. So